Hey guys, welcome back to BCMN Bracketology. Today we're going to be going over CBS Sports' newest bracket. We're super excited to present this video to you because there's going to be a ton of upsets. Comment down below what your favorite upset team is. And right before the video, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps us out. It's free and we really appreciate it. So let's get into the video. So first off, we got the Zags versus Norfolk State. Norfolk State, you're not pulling a St. Mary's. Zags are winning this one.
Next, we got Boise State, Notre Dame. I think this is a 50-50. Honestly, it can go either way. Both teams are hot. But Notre Dame proves that they could beat those good teams like Kentucky, and I think they're going to barely pull this one off.
Next, we got Ohio State versus South Dakota State. Ohio State kind of just lost to Maryland in a scary game. Didn't really look great. Wasn't shooting the ball well. We were kind of low on South Dakota State earlier this year, and that was on us. We disrespected them. They have been incredibly hot since. One of the hottest teams in the country. Haven't lost in like 15, 16 games. They're shooting the ball great. They're a very efficient team, scoring 90 points a game, and they just knocked off Oral Roberts. They scored 106 points against Oral Roberts and Max A. Smith. I think they're going to be able to pull this upset off.
Next, we got Alabama, Toledo. Toledo, yeah, they're a pretty solid team, but they did lose at home against Kent State. That's not a great win. Alabama, on the other hand, one of the hotter teams in the country against really good teams at home. I know this is not at home, but they're still a top team, and they're going to beat Toledo.
Next, we got Colorado State versus Miami. Miami can't really knock off those good teams. They also just lost to Virginia Tech at home, which was kind of a bad loss for them. Colorado State has one of the best players in the country, and David Roddy. Not a lot of people refer to. He got a lot of hype before college basketball started, but he hasn't really been talked about since. And he's been putting up incredible numbers, which is crazy that he hasn't been talked about more. And Colorado State's a 6 seed, so they're going to win this one.
Next, we got Villanova, Princeton. Princeton, now on a 6-game win streak, beating Harvard on back-to-back games. They look really scary, except they're still playing Villanova, and Villanova has one of the most talented team. Gillespie is such a good player, and they're going to get dominated.
Yep. Now we got Iowa State versus Davidson. Iowa State, we were very worried about them for 4 games straight. They kept losing by double digits in almost all of those to not the best teams. They lost to West Virginia and Kansas State in that stretch. And then you've got Davidson, who we've been super high on. Love Hyun Jung Lee. Incredible shooter. Reminds me of Steph Curry. Same situation. I think Davidson won't be this high of a seed in the real tournament. But if there will be a 12 seed, look out for them. I could see them being a very deep upset team, and they're going to win this one.
Next, we got Wisconsin, Long Beach State. Wisconsin, let's move on.
Next, we got Baylor. Let's move on.
Wyoming, Creighton. A week ago, I think I said this in the last video, I would have picked Creighton, but their best player has broke their arm. I don't think they're the team as they used to be now. Wyoming playing really well. Only lost to Colorado State and New Mexico recently, but I think they're going to be okay, and they're going to pull this out.
Next, we got Arkansas, Iona. Iona, one of those sneaky good teams in this tournament. I think they're the best. They're the best in their conference, and they're kind of not getting enough recognition. Arkansas, on the other hand, is just such a good 5 seed. They're all well-rounded. They're incredible. They're capable of beating off that top team. They're capable of defending against lower teams. They're not going to lose this one, sadly.
Next, we got Illinois, Chattanooga. Southern Conference is not a great conference. That's where Chattanooga is. They're losing some games like to VMI, and that does not look good at all. Illinois, yes, they are losing some games, but that's still the top 25 teams. They look really good. They're going to win.
Next, we got Texas versus SMU. I really like both of these teams. Texas is kind of a falling team, has fallen to 6, but they're still better than the majority of 6 seeds. SMU, one of these new teams in the tournament, love the American Athletic Conference. I don't think they get enough credit, and I think SMU has been consistently beating Houston, and they're an incredible team, very efficient, and kind of a sneaky good at teamwork and moving the ball around, which could throw Texas off, but I don't think they're going to be able to pull this upset off.
Next, we got Kentucky, Vermont. This is a disgrace, in my opinion. It is horrible that Kentucky is lower than a 2 seed. They did lose to Arkansas, but Arkansas has proved that they can win good games, beat good teams. Kentucky has the most talent in the league, and they're going to win by a lot.
Next, we got Michigan State versus Xavier. You've got a very good coach team in Michigan State, a very well-rounded team, a lot of talent. And then you've got Xavier. I don't know how Xavier is here. Xavier is horrendous. They are not a good team. They've lost 7 of their past 10 games. I'm going to repeat that. They have lost 7 of their past 10 games, some of them to not ranked teams, some of them to terrible teams, to like St. John's, DePaul they lost to. They're not a good team. It's ridiculous they're still here and even being talked about. Michigan State's going to blow them out by 50.
Next, we got Duke versus Longwood.
Moving on. Next, we got Zags versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame, a very solid team. I just don't think they have the size and talent to compete with the Zags. The Zags game yesterday was crazy how much St. Mary's was able to push them back and even win. But I don't think they're gonna let that happen again. I think this was kind of a shocking wake up call for them.
Next, we got South Dakota State, Alabama. Let's go through Alabama's schedule just a little bit. They lost to Iona. They lost to Memphis. They lost to Georgia. They lost to Davidson. But they also beat Arkansas. They're really good against good teams. Yes, South Dakota State is a very good team, but they're not as good, and Alabama can't play against good teams, so we go South Dakota State.
Next, we got Colorado State versus Villanova. Similar matchup to last bracket. Colorado State, David Roddy, I'm telling you, look out for him. He is a sharpshooter. He is a big guy who can drive in. He's an incredible playmaker. I think they're going to put the ball in his hands, and he's going to make big-time plays against Gillespie, and they're going to be able to pull off this upset here.
Next, we got Davidson, Wisconsin. We've been saying it all year. Hyun-Jong Lee is the greatest. No, I'm just kidding. Wisconsin has lost 4 games their entire season, and all of them have been against top 25 teams now. They are incredible. Johnny Davis looks insane. Davidson's lethal. They're gonna win.
Yeah, and Wisconsin, by the way, has lost 5 games. Next, we got Baylor versus Wyoming. Baylor, I don't really have to talk about that too much.
Next, we got Arkansas, Illinois. My favorite 4-5 matchup because I think Illinois is very talented. They got Kofi, they got Frazier. Everyone's playing good. Except they're kind of inconsistent. They can either be a top 5 team or they could be out of the top 25 team. Arkansas is consistent. They have the wins. They're hot, and they're going to beat Illinois.
Next, you got Texas versus Kentucky. I think Texas is a very solid team. I think we're recording this before the Baylor game. I think they're going to put up a scary fight against Baylor at home. I think Baylor's going to be pushed to their toes, and if not, maybe even lose. But Kentucky's too good. Oscar Tshiebwe, he's not letting them lose. He's just way too big for Texas. They can't control him. And he's not even that big height-wise. He's just such a powerful and impactful player. And he looks like he plays as if he's 7'6", and he's really just incredible.
Next, we got MSU versus Duke. I think MSU got lucky. They got to play Xavier in the first round. Michigan State does have some good wins. They beat Purdue a couple nights ago. Very impressive. Before that, they lost to Iowa, Illinois, Penn State, Wisconsin, Rutgers. There was a stretch where they lost 5 of 6 games. I think Duke might win by 30.
Next, we got Zags versus South Dakota State. South Dakota State, you made a great run, very solid team. We really weren't that high on them earlier in the year, like I said before. They've got every guy on their team can hit shots when they need it. I think they're a really solid March Madness team for that reason. They're going to hit those big-time threes that are going to move them past into the next rounds, kind of like a Loyola Chicago type style team who's also excels on defense, but Zags are going to beat them here.
Next, we got Colorado State versus Wisconsin. Both teams really good. I see star player versus star player. Johnny Davis versus Rowdy. Very intense matchup. I just think Wisconsin overall this season has been playing better.
Next, we got Baylor versus Arkansas. Arkansas, man, they are incredible. Started off the year a little shaky, and then they're knocking off team after team. incredible team. They've knocked off Kentucky. They've knocked off Tennessee. They had a fluke loss against Alabama, and then they knocked off Auburn when they were arguably the best team in the country they were the best team in the country at the time. They're a very solid team. They're scrappy. They're solid, and I just don't think Baylor's going to be able to keep up with them.
Next, we got Duke versus Kentucky. I think Duke gets very unlucky. They're playing a team that should not be a 3 seed, should be a 2, maybe even 1 seed. I think a great part about March Madness, no one has the home playing field. No one's home. Kentucky has not lost a game at home, I don't believe. But it's a rematch. Duke, Kentucky, first game this year. Can go either way. I think Kentucky wins because it's neutral site.
So next we got Zags versus Wisconsin to make the Final Four. Zags, I know they just lost, but they're still just such a good team all around. Looking at how they played, when watching it, you could tell it just wasn't how the Zags are. That didn't demonstrate their abilities. They shot almost 35% from the field all around, which is just horrendous for them. They're gonna shoot 50% normally. It's crazy how bad they shot, and you watch the game, and just shots were not dropping for them. They couldn't catch a break. They almost shoot better for 3-pointers normally than they did for their entire field goal percentage, and I think they're going to be able to knock off the Wisconsin. Both teams are great. I think Wisconsin got really unlucky being in their side of the bracket.
Next we got Arkansas, Kentucky, a great matchup. I think Kentucky has the better players, maybe the better coach. I don't know, but we go by which team's hotter at the moment, and that is Arkansas, who knocked off Kentucky just 2 nights ago. That's Arkansas, who beat Tennessee a week ago. They're hot, and they're hungry, and they're making it to the Final Four.
So next, going to the other side, we'll go pretty quickly here. We're going to go Auburn here.
Next, we got Seton Hall, TCU.
We called it, by the way. We called the TCU update. We said it. That was our sneaky play, and they won. I would just like to say that. I'm taking full credit.
Seton Hall, TCU. Obviously, TCU's hot now. They just beat Texas Tech. Seton Hall has not been playing very good. The only team they've beaten recently was Xavier. Actually, they did beat Butler and DePaul, but those were both close games that should not have been close games. So, TCU.
Next, we got St. Mary's versus UNC or Florida. Florida, I think, would win that game between UNC and them. But I think St. Mary's, we said it last video, we didn't think they would be able to beat the Zags, but we said they're kind of like underrated in the West Coast, and they kind of get overshadowed by the Zags. But they're consistently ranked, and then they beat Zags. Now they're getting the attention they deserve, and they're going to win this game.
Next, we got UConn, New Mexico State. Very tough matchup. I think New Mexico State is one of the best 13 seeds. I think, unfortunately, they have to play UConn, who is a very hot team right now. Beat Georgetown on the road, beat Villanova, beat Xavier, beat Seton Hall, beat St. John's on the road. They look really good, and they're going to not allow the upset to happen.
Next, we got Houston versus North Texas. We keep saying it. Houston's a good team, but they just are falling apart as the season goes on. They don't really have that star player where they can build around, like Quentin Grimes, who was the American Athletic Player of the Year. North Texas, on the other hand, they've looked pretty good. They have incredible guard talent. They actually have the tournament experience to back it up. But sadly, I don't think they're going to be able to knock off Houston. North Texas has played a team in the American this year. They played Wichita State, and they were able to beat them, but barely. And then Houston just demolishes Wichita every time.
Next, we got Purdue, Northern Iowa. Congratulations, Northern Iowa. You made the tournament. You just beat the magical Loyola Chicago. They're on a hot streak. Are they going to pull off the upset?
No, gone. Next, we got Marquette and San Francisco. Both teams pretty just honestly not good at all. I don't like either 7 or 10. I'm just going to say San Francisco because it's 50-50.
Next, we got Kansas, Montana State, Kansas. Next.
Arizona, I'm sorry, guys. They finally showed their crack. They're not losing to this game, but it's depressing.
Next, we got my favorite 8-9 matchup, Murray State, Iowa. Both teams on fuego. I think this game could honestly go either way. Who heats up more? I don't know. I think Iowa has played better teams. I think that they're going to get hot and they're going to win.
Next, we got UCLA, BYU. BYU is not a good team. They're not a good 12 seed. I like certain 12 seeds in these 12-5 matchups. Sometimes you can't just pull the trigger because it's a 12-5 matchup. They're significantly outmatched with UCLA, size, speed, and talent. Their best player on UCLA is just far better. BYU's three-point shooting was started off incredible this season, and it just has not been the same, and UCLA is going to demolish them.
Next, we got Tennessee, Towson. I am genuinely confused how Tennessee is not a 3 seed at this point. The only loss recently has been to Arkansas on the road, and that Arkansas is really good. They beat Kentucky, they beat Auburn just last week, and Tennessee might win by 50.
Next, we got USC versus Wake Forest or Memphis. Both Wake Forest and Memphis are pretty sneaky teams this year. Memphis, I keep saying it, if they can just get healthy. If Imani Bates can come back, they can get in a rhythm. They have 2 5-star recruits, 2 potential lottery picks for the NBA. Incredible talent, good coaching with Penny Hardaway. Debatably good coaching with Penny Hardaway. I think they're going to be able to knock off USC here, and this is entirely on the presumption that Imani Bates comes back.
Next, we got Texas Tech, Texas State, Battle of Texas. Texas Tech has shown they can lose to those good okay.
Next, we got LSU versus San Diego State. San Diego State, another one of those kind of sneaky good teams in the Mountain West. They're a good shooting team. They really only lose to they only lose recently to good teams like Colorado State and Boise State, 2 other tournament teams. LSU, not too big on this year. They're kind of in the 7 to 10 range. I would kind of shy away from them, regardless of them being a big name.
Next, we got Providence, Jacksonville State. Providence.
Next, moving up to the top, Auburn, TCU. We called the upset last time with TCU. We called it. We knew they were going to beat Texas Tech. Well, guess what? They're not beating Auburn this time.
Next, we got UConn, St. Mary's. St. Mary's has shown how good they can be. UConn also shown how good they can be. But has UConn beat Gonzaga? No.
Next, we got Houston versus Purdue. The thing I love about Houston is their size and just toughness on the floor. And just Purdue's just bigger. Purdue is bigger. They have the guard talent, which Houston fails because of Grimes not being there. And they're just an all-around better team. They're very similar, but Purdue's just better in all those good categories.
Next, we got Marquette, Kansas. Like we said, Marquette's not our favorite 7 seed. Like we said, San Francisco is not our favorite 10 seed. Kansas has shown that they can't win against good teams on the road. Good thing they're not playing a very good team, Kansas, by a lot.
Next, we got Arizona, Iowa. Honestly, after that crack, it's very questionable this game. I think Iowa is a very solid one of these teams, and I think they have the chance to pull this off. Unfortunately, though, Arizona, I don't think is going to – I think this was going to be another wake-up call similar to that loss to Tennessee, and they're just going to kind of go on a spurge here. But who knows? Iowa could very well pull this off.
Next, we got UCLA versus Tennessee. UCLA has the talent. They have the skill. But they're not that hot. And we like hot teams. Tennessee, one of the hottest teams in the country.
Next, we got Wake Forest / Memphis or Texas Tech. We called the upset last time, Texas Tech losing. Unfortunately, they're not going to lose again. It was an away game, and they were winning by a lot and kind of just blew it. They have the scoring ability, and they're not going to lose this one this time.
Next, we got San Diego State, Providence. Personally, not the biggest fan of San Diego State. Yes, they've been playing good, but they have not been playing up to Providence's caliber. Providence is such a team-oriented team. They're so good, and they're going to win.
Next, you got Auburn versus St. Mary's. St. Mary's, very good. We might be getting a little too far ahead of ourselves with bringing them to the Elite Eight. Are we, is the question? Who knows? Comment down below if we're getting crazy with St. Mary's, because we're taking them over Auburn. Auburn's been losing a couple recently. They lost to Arkansas. It kind of like showed they're pretty vulnerable. And then they lose to Florida. And then they go and lose to Tennessee. They're going to lose to St. Mary's in this game. St. Mary's is going to be a great team in this tournament. Beat Zags. They're very scary. And I think they're going to be like kind of lose this hype towards tournament time, and then they're going to spark up again, and people are going to be like, how did we not see this coming? They beat Zags, and then they forget about them.
Next, we got Purdue, Kansas. I think Kansas gets unlucky. Kansas does not have the most size in the league. They're a very team-oriented team. Providence, probably the biggest team in the country, has the biggest player in the country, has the guard talent, and I think Purdue is too big, too strong. Kansas goes bye-bye.
Next, we got Arizona versus Tennessee. Arizona, very good team. We love them. They go very fast, and sometimes it works, and most of the time it works. But last night it did not work against Colorado. It was a little scary. They were just turning the ball over so much. They're fast paced. They've kind of got to tone it back a little bit. 16 turnovers. Colorado had 21 points off of those turnovers. Without that many turnovers and playing how they normally do, Arizona would have probably won that game. Tennessee is a very good team. They're known to knock off those good teams. They beat Arizona before. They know how to do it. They know how to stop them, slow the game down. They're one of those teams that doesn't play at the pace of their opponent. They set the pace, and I think by setting the pace, they're going to force Arizona to take shots deep in the shot clock and win this game.
Next, to finish out the Sweet 16, we got Texas Tech versus Providence. We called the Texas Tech loss again. Texas Tech had one of the best streaks I've seen, beat number 7 Baylor, beat number 20 Texas on the road. But they're starting to slow down. And honestly, I think Kansas State has a chance tonight. I think they have a chance. Providence looks like one of the best teams in the country, and they're going to pull out the win.
So next we got to make the Final Four, St. Mary's versus Purdue. St. Mary's, known to beat the big guys. They just beat Chet and Timmy, kind of locked them down. Can they beat Ide and Travion Williams? Who knows? Probably not. Purdue also has Jaden Ivey, arguably easily one of the top 5 players in college basketball, arguably a top 3 player. I don't think St. Mary's has the guard talent to take on Purdue's talent.
Next we got Tennessee, Providence. Both teams are absolutely amazing. They've been doing incredible stuff. Neither team was supposed to be that great this year, and they've turned it around. Team basketball is the name of this game. And who has more team basketball? Tennessee. Get the hot hand.
All right. So next we got Gonzaga versus Arkansas. A very good team in both of these. Zags are a very solid team, but they just came off a loss, so they're showing a little vulnerability. Arkansas, on the other hand, very good. They've been incredible with the ball. They've been a very tough team, hard to knock off, although I think the Zags will make it enough to be good by the tournament. I truly believe this is going to be a wake-up call. I think they're not going to lose in the Final Four yet again. Last year they did not lose, and they're going to hit a big shot, and I think this is going to be a close game. Very high scoring. Love it both. Love both teams, but Zags are going to walk away with this one.
Next we got Purdue versus Tennessee. As much as I love Tennessee's team basketball, Purdue's way more talented and way bigger. And Purdue goes to the finals.
Okay. And now, before we go into the finals, I just want to say thank you for sticking around with us this long. We really appreciate it. If you'd consider subscribing, that really helps us out. And comment down below who you think would win this game, and we will. This is such a tough decision because both teams just lost yesterday. Zags losing a game to St. Mary's, but played uncharacteristic. Purdue played away in the Big Ten against Michigan State, an incredibly tough team to play against away. So it's hard to count dock these losses against Purdue, especially when they're in the Big Ten, when they're playing it away. It's so hard to play away in the Big Ten, and when they play at home and play as a great basketball team, you see these glimpses of just stardom with all their players. I think if they can just both teams, I think if they can develop themselves into a great team basketball and work together, it's going to be very tough to knock them off. But when it comes down to it, I think the one that has more potential is Purdue. So we're going to be picking them to win this one. Thank you guys so much for watching this video.